So our next session is going to be on trademark scams, how criminals are targeting trademark registrants and impersonating the USPTO. Of course, we can't have this discussion without recognizing Director of the Trademark Register Protection Office who's here, Mantia Pressy, who's here, so hello. As you may know, trademark scams are on the rise, and bad actors are using increasingly devious and creative means to fool trademark owners. Our next speaker, who's from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, Attorney Jordan Baker, is going to join us to discuss common trademark scams and how to avoid them. Now, Jordan Baker is an attorney advisor for the Register Protection Office in the Office of the Deputy Commissioner for Trademark Examination Policy. He currently focuses on protecting the trademark register from inaccurate and fraudulent submissions and on educating stakeholders about trademark scams. So come on up, Attorney Baker.
Thank you. Good morning. As I said, Jordan Baker from the RPO office. Really happy to be here. Like so many other federal agencies and large businesses, we have seen a rise in spoofing of USPTO phone numbers. Scammers use scripts to impersonate USPTO employees to try to steal money and personal information for use in fraudulent activity. Scammers send mocked up USPTO communications concerning applications, registrations, including fake registration certificates, and spoofed USPTO email addresses. Legitimate USPTO phone numbers are often spoofed, including USPTO headquarters, a number here in Alexandria, as well as phone numbers for our regional offices, including Denver, Colorado. The most commonly spoofed number is from our Trademark Assistance Center, but we also see spoofed numbers from the Patent Application Assistance Unit and the Finance Receipts Accounting Division. This is a web page of ours that has a list of the common scams in the menu on the right. We're going to go over many of these, but not all of them. But if you see, you can click on each one and you'll find information about each kind of scam, and we have examples. So if you do get something, that you can maybe match it to what is on the website. We also have an infographic we'll share later on that we use in our social media campaigns. Highlighting the box in red there, we note that the USPTO does not recommend companies or attorneys. We do not endorse any other company or attorneys, and that trademark owners or USPTO licensed attorneys are the only people who can file documents or conduct proceedings before the office. This slide shows an infographic that it's not just the USPTO that is under deluge of imposter scams. The top 5 agencies that have imposter scams are Social Security, Human Health Services, that's typically related to Medicare, Customs Border Protection, who we just heard from, the U.S. Postal Service, and the Federal Trade Commission. And the top method of scams is by phone, and payment is often trying to be extracted through gift cards. So if you get anything asking, to pay through a gift card, that should obviously raise some flags. On the left side of this slide, you'll see a quote from a survey that the office sent out about a TEAS interaction. TEAS is our online filing system. And it's about phone numbers and why are phone numbers public and what you can do about that. Phone numbers are they are optional when you file, but they are helpful in many cases to have them during the application process. But we have added to our forms information that lets you know that you do not have to provide a phone number to the PTO. These 2 charts show spoofing tabulations of what the office has received. The chart on the left, it's really stunning. If you look, FY21, we had 1 reported example of a spoofing scam, and then FY23, over 5,000. And then the data is not complete for FY24 here, but it was already almost 3,000 when this was compiled. I'm sure it was higher than that by the end of the fiscal year. And that's just people who are actually going to take the time to report that to the office. So think about all the people who just shake them off or don't even consider reporting. On the right, you see this is the emails of people who have emailed the TM Scams box, which we're going to hear a lot about this morning. And these are the people who have written into us to indicate that they have seen a caller spoofing, that they've been involved in a caller spoofing situation or an email. The bottom chart is information that's reported to the FTC related to USPTO spoofing contacts. And so in just a few months of time earlier this year, customers reported to the FTC 124 email attempts and over 73 phone calls. So now we're going to go over a variety of government USPTO impersonations. The first one is text messages. We do not send texts to customers telling them to file maintenance documents or any kind of document. Our courtesy reminders are sent by email, and they're generally vague. They come at the beginning of a statutory period to file a document. They're nothing like, you need to file this document now. They will not provide a link to file a specific kind of document. Things to note in the text message example here is that the web domain is .com. U.S. government agencies end in .gov. And there's also a spoofed phone number here, so it makes it look like it's coming from the PTO or a unit within the PTO. Invoices are a popular form of government impersonation. Our logo is being misused in the upper left here. We do not issue invoices. Payments are made to the PTO when filings are submitted to the office through the payment system built into our online filing system. So that you will never receive an invoice or any other invitation to make a payment separately from the way you make payments through your online forms. Tip-offs on this example are that there's not real fees. We like to call them nonsense fees. So in the center of this invoice, you see EIN business number. We will not ask for an EIN number. Often you'll see a taxpayer ID. We will not ask for taxpayer ID. Attestation services are nothing that we're involved with. Don't give us your social security number, passport information, etc. The scammers will try to ask for basically anything they think will be of value to them. So those are all things that if it's not trademark related, that should be a big flag that don't do it. This example also includes a lifetime registration option. There is no such thing as a lifetime trademark registration. Maybe sell one for a lot of money, but no, we do not do that. And registrations are periodically maintained. So there is a rhythm to when you have to file maintenance documents, so nothing lifetime, and the fees are incremental along the way with those maintenance filings. On the bottom right here, one of the themes that you'll hear a lot about coming up is bad actors try to extract just one more fee several times. If they can rope you in to pay one fee, you are a live victim, and they will try to extract more fees out of you. This is an example of a renewal document, a solicitation to do a trademark renewal. We have found that scammers will usually contact registration owners before the courtesy maintenance period starts and before we send our reminder. They want to get on it early to confuse victims about when their renewals are actually due, and they want to rush them. They want to scare them. They want to rush them to pay fees. Some of the tip-offs in this example is that the website ends in .us. Again, our websites end in .gov, not .us. The name in this example is the Patent and Trademark Office. Sounds a little similar. And there's a Washington, D.C. address. So similar location, but not us. There is false urgency in these scams. This one is telling you that your trademark is going to expire if you do not file this document, and this one includes a list of bogus dates. So, you know, most people probably don't keep a notepad with all their trademark registration dates handy, and so it's preying on people who just maybe are not familiar with what the status of their portfolio looks like. And then this one has a kind of a goofy disclaimer. It's highlighted in yellow that we're not actually we're not involved with the USPTO. We're not endorsed by the PTO. We're a private business. This slide is an example of a search report Right off the bat, we do not send government search reports. That is not something that's part of the application process on the USPTO side. We think that this kind of scam often comes from logo design, low-cost filing firms that also, you may hire them to file your logo, and then the next step is, oh, well, here's a search report we offer. And then before they start the parade of other bogus things that they may offer as well. Some of the giveaways here are obvious typographical errors. This one has a fake fake division of the PTO. This says U.S. Patent and Trademark Office Information Products Division. That does not exist. The address below is sort of a mishmash of PTO information with a variety of different address components that are not correct. There is false urgency in this one as well through the wording priority action is required. That's again trying to exert pressure on people who just aren't sure that if they need to do something. And this one too has a strange disclaimer where the USPTO is disclaiming warranties, representations, express applied, yada, 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 more legalese stuff again to fool those who just aren't sure. You can always check to see what is in the record through the TSDR database under the Documents tab. If it is an official government communications, it will be there in TSDR. So if you receive anything that has our name, our logo on it, then you can confirm it in TSDR. And if it's not there, then that should definitely raise suspicions about the validity of what's been sent to you. This example is fake registration certificates. These are pretty pernicious because they can be used at a variety of timelines. So here's an example of one that we had some time ago. I like on the left, it says the United States of America. The "the" really adds a little bit of a class to that. It has a fake title, the Acting Commissioner of Patents and Trademarks. There's no actual reference to the owner, the goods, the services, or dates of use in the fake one. It will just show the mark that you've applied for, and it may show an unrelated application number. It may show an unrelated registration number. It may just include entirely irrelevant information like copyright number. Sure, why not? In this case, the scammers just tend to add things to throw you off balance when you're looking at what may have been sent to you. Sometimes this happens also right after you apply for an application. So if you've just applied, your application might not even be assigned to an examining attorney yet. Scammers will start sending you documents like, you've already been registered, and they may look like this. Whereas you can check in our records in the database and it still may say not assigned to an examining attorney yet. This slide shows an example of issuance fees. It's another invoice example. Again, we do not send invoices. There are signs on this one that indicate that this is a fake communication. There's the obvious misspelling of the word department as department, and it references the patent office, not the patent and trademark office. Some other examples of bogus fees or nonsense fees, well, this one has, registration ID issuance fee for $1,800. That will get you nothing. And federal taxes. We do not ask for federal taxes. There's no point in the process where you ever see a line item for federal taxes. Some of the more recent examples we've seen are font protection fees, not a real thing, and actually copyright fees as well, but not our agency. This is sort of adjacent to a USPTO imposter scheme. This is the conflicting marks report, which doesn't directly make it look like it's coming from the USPTO. This one's tricky, and I think it kind of tangles people up because it has lots of moving parts. This is a scam where the scammer is posing as an attorney who has contacted a victim about an alleged conflicting mark report. The scammer claims that a client asked them to file a trademark application for a similar mark, but they are willing to help the victim instead, only if you immediately act now. We think an online logo design firm may be behind this scam. Once they've designed the company logo, as we mentioned, they want to start offering a variety of business services because they've already roped you in. You've already paid perhaps the low cost of the logo, and now they want to extract more money from you. And they try to pressure the victim. In this example, there's false urgency, indicating that If the victim does not act within 2 business days, then the other person, that third party, then their application is going to go ahead. So this is scare, scare, scare. And we see this one with kind of a frightening amount of reports of these to the TM Scams box. Registering with the USPTO is never mandatory. So if you see something like you must register, that is blatantly false. Also, a real law firm will not contact you to say that they received a competing application. And for good measure, this scam also mentions that following something about IP protocols, that you must do such. The IP protocols is vague and intentionally confusing. So what are the actions being taken by the office? Regarding actions being taken, we are reporting misleading ads to search engine companies, Google and Bing, primarily, and are encouraging customers to do the same through their reporting forms. Our solicitor's office is pursuing enforcement of USPTO marks in domain names. Some of the ones that have been reported are trademarkassistancecenter.com, uspto.gov.us, uspto.org, uspto.com. Some domain registrars have been more receptive to suspending domains that violate USPTO's name and trademarks than others. We are updating notices all across our website and our web content with warnings about impersonation and false association scams. And we'll show you a bunch of the warnings and additional amendments that we've made in a few slides. We're also in contact with other agencies and associations like the National Association of Attorney Generals to work with them to spread the word about trademark scams, developing reoccurring webinars, and launching scams awareness campaigns. So misconceptions. Something to keep in mind is that in the scam and fraud area, the USPTO is not a law enforcement agency. This means that while we do have many tools in our toolkit to combat scams, we're limited in what we can do. We do not have the authority to prevent private companies from sending trademark-related notices. We have no power to sue scammers or fraudsters or to prosecute them, and we cannot provide restitution of money paid to a scammer. But we can try to tell you how to try to get that money back. We're sharing data and information with agencies who do have criminal and civil enforcement authority, encouraging them to bring charges against scammers. And scams that involve bad behavior before the USPTO, violations of our rules, systems, and websites, we can and do take action. So Federal Trade Commission's enforcement, we have our own code that really tells you that something is bad when you get your own code to report something. So there's a new tool at the FTC to address government impersonation scams that went into effect a few months ago. It makes it a rule violation to impersonate government officials. They've created a specific link for customers to report a USPTO scam. You'll see it on our webpage, and on the next slide, I'll show you how to get to that link. On the left here is our very important page, What to Do If You've Been Scammed. It offers 12 tips, gives you a sense of direction of where to go if you think that you've been scammed. And one of those tools, as we just noted, is to report to the FTC. And this is vitally important because the more they know about PTO scams, the more resources can be allocated to do something about it. So on the right, you'll see, if you click the link, it sends you to the page that is displayed on the right. And it gives you a variety of things to choose from. If you click on that and follow the report, your report is added to a tool that is available to over 2,800 law enforcers to assist them in investigating and bringing cases against the scammers. These are some of examples of our scam awareness campaigns. I'll highlight the one on the right. It might be a little hard to read, but there's 5 bullet points under what to do if you've been fooled. And we reinforce these. First, you can contact your financial institution to file a report and try to get your money back. You can file a report with the Federal Trade Commission, as we've noted. You can also file a report with your FBI field office. You can file a report with your state attorney general. And then if it's a phone scam, a spoofing situation, you can also file a report with the FCC. So there are things that you can do to help spread awareness so others don't perhaps get fooled or find themselves in the same situation. And this is an example of the spoofing portion of our website. Again, it reiterates that USPTO employees will never ask for personal or payment information. This is an example of how we've made changes to the filing receipt. So all applicants get these when they file. And in two different areas, it notes references to scams awareness. So it includes a link to our page about protecting against scams, and then it gives a little more detail about how scams often present themselves right there on the filing receipt. So they have immediate notice upon filing to look out for scams. This is an example from our T's form, and this is warning language about phone numbers. And so it lets filers know that a phone number is optional, and they do not have to provide it because phone numbers are often used by scammers to impersonate the PTO. And lastly, this is our infographic that we use on social media. And it's a really good way to summarize the theme of this presentation. So red flags to look for: pressure to act immediately, that false sense of urgency that I've been talking about, demands for payment that certainly seem unorthodox to the trademark process. That's, if any demands that's outside of the online filing form from T's and the USPTO should certainly raise caution. Unsolicited communications and advertisements. Not every solicitation is necessarily bad, but if it's the kind of thing we are not expecting it's something that you should put some effort into distilling what is in that communication. Look out for typographical or grammatical errors. Requests for personal information, something that is obviously beyond what would be expected for a trademark-related filing, would raise caution. Made-up deadlines, made-up renewal dates, application statuses, something just doesn't seem right by the tone of the communication, the wording in the communication, about where you think you are in the trademark process, and especially once you have your registration. Those scams on renewals have been around for a long time, and so if you get something that just sort of seems out of the blue about your trademark renewal and doesn't feel like it's on the right time frame, that should raise caution. And then, of course, suspicious calls and emails like we've discussed. This infographic also has a phone number to call. I believe that's the Trademark Assistance Center, where you can ask your questions, and they are so very helpful. And also the email to the tmscams@USPTO.gov box, where we're happy to answer your questions and what we can. Thank you very much.
So Jordan, I think we can take a few questions. Some questions that we have here are, you laid out a number of, a flood of bad information that's out there, both that relates to the PTO as well as just generally when it comes to attorneys, seeking to, or bad information about attorneys trying to get a hold of registrants. So how would people know that they're working with a real attorney? Is there a place that they can check? Does PTO provide those resources?
Great, great question. So we have this quite a bit. People don't know if they're actually talking to a real attorney, if they get one of these emails or phone calls. And so the first thing to do is ask for their attorney bar number, ask what state they're licensed in. If there's any hesitation in providing an attorney bar number or state, that should tip you off that perhaps things are not on the level. If they do have that information, if they do provide it, you can corroborate that information through state bar association websites. The state bars will have often that information available to search. Not every bar has everything available, so you might need to call them to verify that information. If it does turn out that it does match the name of a real attorney, you can also corroborate that through your own online search to see, does that attorney practice trademark law? You may have the credentials of a real attorney, but perhaps that attorney is not a trademark lawyer or is in-house doing something different elsewhere. So that is a step further to take, is not just affirm the credentials, but then take a look to see, is this actually someone who would be doing trademark law, or is this someone in a totally different field where maybe some bad behavior is going on?
Thank you. So one of the things you covered in your presentation is this false sense of urgency that scammers try to get people's attention with. And one of that might be, they might threaten that there's going to be a penalty by USPTO for failing to register a trademark. Is there such a thing as that?
Thank you. This depends on who we're talking about here, whether it's an attorney or whether it's a non-attorney. If it is an attorney, any kind of allegations of violation of USPTO rules, those are brought to the Office of Enrollment and Discipline, or OED. They can, and or the State Bar as well, they can investigate allegations of rules violations, and the Office of Enrollment and Discipline they can issue reprimands, they can suspend attorneys from practice, they can exclude attorneys from USPTO practice, as well as other variety of things that they can do. So that there absolutely are penalties for not following our rules. For non-attorneys, violations can also be reported to the Office of Enrollment or Discipline or the State Bar. And based on what the nature of allegations may be or bad behavior that might be seeing, there are penalties that could be in the form of administrative sanctions. That could be on the form of voiding submissions that are clearly fraudulent, that are abusing other people's credentials. There could be not reviewing certain submissions, and putting submissions on suspension. So there's a variety of penalties that could happen through violating the office rules. Also for non-attorneys, if they have a USPTO.gov account and they have violated the user terms of that account, they may lose access to the ability to do that.
Perfect. And then what about failing to register a trademark? Are there any penalties associated with that?
It is often beneficial to file and have a trademark registration, but it's never mandatory. No one is ever forced to file for a trademark.
So, most of our work concerns, obviously, the registration of the trademark process, but does PTO ever get involved in issuing cease and desist letters on behalf of third parties? Do they act as a party in trademark disputes in court? Or do we provide any clearance services for third parties?
The USPTO does not provide any kind of legal advice. We do not represent third parties, and we do not get involved in third-party disputes.
So I think that wraps up for this session. Are we going to take a 5-6 minute break, and then we'll reconvene right at 11 o'clock? All right, thank you. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you.
We've got a couple of questions this one more for Jordan as we're going to move on to our next presentation, but before we do that, we do have a minute. So Jordan, I have a question. Where are you, Jordan Baker? There you are. You want to come up because or how about, Amin's going to give you the microphone. Here's the question, and this is about QR codes. So the scam example that you provided earlier included a QR code. And you had it listed with a lot of other excellent red flags that you pointed out in your presentation. So the question is, despite the other obvious red flags, is there a safe way to check if the QR code is fraudulent, or are there any risk of scanning it to find out? I don't know if you know that answer, but share.
We do use QR codes in our trademark registration certificates. I do not believe QR codes are on other communications, but even if I'm wrong on that, you can always check through TSDR, the portal, to see if the communication did originate with the office.
Okay, very good. Thank you.